Hello, welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 2 with Professor Blackman. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about multiplication of polynomials. So we're going to multiply two polynomials together, a monomial times a monomial, binomial, and trinomial, a binomial times a binomial and trinomial, and we'll finish off with a trinomial times a trinomial. I'll also show a couple of special rules that can help you multiply faster if you want to learn the rules. If you don't want to learn the rules, you can just use it using the first methods that I've shown you. All right, there's a little fact here. It says the product of two polynomials. To multiply two polynomials p and q, select one of the polynomials, say p, then multiply every term in p in q. So it's just like multiplying when you have something in front of a parenthesis. But now if you have a multiple term in front of a parenthesis, you got to distribute everything from that first parenthesis to that second parenthesis. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so here we're going to multiply these two. So first focus on the numbers. 8 times 3 gives you 24. X squared and y give you x squared and a y. No power changes there because it's xx and y, which becomes x squared y. All right, let's get another one. Negative times a positive. Negative times positive is negative. 5 times 6 is 30. A squared and a, so that's a, and a, so that's a to the third. And then we have a b. So that's multiplying a monomial and a monomial. So now let's look at a monomial and binomial. So a one term multiplied by a two term. So we're going to take what's in front of that parenthesis and distribute it to both of those terms. So 2 times 7 gives you 14. Z, positive times negative, negative, and then 2xz. Now if you notice I put the x before the z, and that's just because we typically in math keep it alphabetical. All right, next one, distribute that to each term, and we get 6a squared, because a times a is a squared, b, plus 6 times 1, 6ab squared. So as you see, because we're multiplying by a plus b, the a increased in the first term and the b increased in power of the second term. Okay, let's look at another one. 5 times 3 is 15. C to the third, and d squared. So since we're multiplying by the c and d on the outside, each of these increase in 1 in power. 5 times 5, 25. Bring down that sign of a negative. And that gives us c squared. And d times d squared is d to the third. All right, let's look at some more examples. So now we're going to do a monomial times a trinomial. The only difference between this and the previous examples is now we have 3 terms that we need to multiply by or distribute that term on the outside to inside the parentheses. So this gives us 3x to the third, and 3 and a negative 2 give us a negative 6x squared, and 7 times 3x, or 3x times 7, is 21x. And one thing I always like to look at is inside my parentheses, I had a power of 2, power of 1, power of 0. And now I have a power of 3, power of 2, power of 1. So it kept that pattern. We're just 1 higher now when we're talking about the degree because we multiplied by 1 additional variable on the outside. Okay, and now let's go ahead and distribute this 6ab to each term in this parenthesis. So that's 6a to the third. B minus 6 times 7 is 42. AB and AB makes it a squared, b squared. Bring down your sign, and 6ab times b squared is 6a, and b squared gives you b to the third. So that's how we multiply a monomial and trinomial. All right, so now let's look at a binomial and a binomial. So what we're going to do is we're going to distribute this term here, and then this term here and here, and then simplify if there's like terms. So 2x and x, 2x squared, 2x and 2 is 4x, 9 and x gives you 9x. And 9 and 2 give you 18. And you can see here in the middle, we have two x terms, so we're going to combine those, bring down everything else. And 4x and 9x gives us 13x. So here we have a binomial squared, but this can be rewritten as x minus 2y times x minus 2y, because that's what the squared means. And so now we can distribute the x to both terms, and then we'll distribute the negative 2y to both terms. So x squared minus 2xy minus 2xy, and again I'm rewriting it alphabetically. Minus and a minus multiplies give you plus, 2 and 2 give you 4, y and y give you y squared. If you notice, this middle term is exactly the same, and that happens a lot with binomials, and we'll learn a rule about that later. So x squared minus 4xy plus 4y squared. All right, let's look at another one. So here we're going to do binomial and binomial again. And so distribute and distribute. And 2x and 2x gives you 4x squared. 2x and y give you plus 2xy. Negative 3y and 2x give you negative 6xy. And negative 3y and y give you negative 3y squared. Look at your middle terms. They are like terms, so we're going to combine them. 2 minus 6 gives you negative 4 xy minus 3y squared. All right, so here we have one with fractions. Go ahead and distribute. So remember with fractions, a over b times c over d equals a times c over b times d. So when we're multiplying fractions, we just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 4 is 8. X times x, x squared. 1/2 times 1/3, positive. 1 on top, 2 and 3 give you 6 on bottom, x. Now let's do the bottom. Multiply that last term by the first and last term in the second binomial. Negative times positive is negative. 2 over 12, because that's 1 times 2 and 3 times 4. And then negative times positive is negative. 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 3 is 9. Now if you see here, we have like terms. So we have 1/6 minus 2/12. But remember, we cannot add fractions unless they're like denominators, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2, which gives me 2/12 minus 2/12. So that actually equals 0. So this and this cancel out. And we get 1/8 x squared minus 2 over 9. All right, let's look at some more examples. So now we're going to multiply a binomial times a trinomial. So we're going to start by multiplying the x times every term first. So that gives me x cubed plus 4x squared plus 16x. And then we're going to multiply the bottom term, the last term, by everything. Negative 4x squared. Now a lot of people will put it out here, negative 4x squared. But what I like to do with mine is, because I already see that power of x squared, I like to line them up vertically. I think it uses less space, and then it makes adding and subtracting the terms faster and easier. So negative 4 times 4x would be negative 16x, and negative 4 times 16 is 64. Negative times positive is negative. And so now that mine are vertically stacked, 4x squared and negative 4x is gone. 16x and negative 16x is gone. We're left with x to the third minus 64. In your notes, I recommend you starring this because this binomial times a trinomial becomes something special later on because it ends up being difference of cubes. And later on, we go in reverse. All right, let's look at the next one. Multiply by x, and we get x to the third minus 6x squared y plus xy squared. And now we're going to multiply each term by y, and that gives us plus x squared y minus xy squared plus y to the third. And you can see that negative and positive, positive and negative, and we're left with x cubed plus y cubed. And again, this is one that you want to star because it becomes important later. This is what gives us the sum of cubes. All right, let's look at more examples. All right, so we have a trinomial and a trinomial. So I'm going to start by multiplying each term, and that gives me a squared plus ab minus a. And then multiply b times everything, and a times b is ab. So again, I'm going to line them up and vertically stack them. B times b is b squared, and b times negative 1 is negative b. And then I'm going to do it with the 1, and multiplying by 1 is not bad because it's just the same thing, just wrote. So a positive plus the b, and 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And now we can see I have a squared plus 2ab. My a's canceled, plus b squared. My negative b and b cancel, minus 1. All right, let's look at another one. Multiply by a squared here. And we're left with a to the fourth, a squared plus 4a, multiplied by the positive 4a gives us 4a to the third, minus 5a squared. Multiply by a now, and you get a to the third, plus 4a squared, minus 5a. Now we're going to multiply by the negative 1, and we end up with negative a squared, negative 4a, and a negative negative makes a positive 5. And now we need to collect or combine like terms. So you get a to the fourth plus 4 and 1 give you 5, a to the third. A negative 5 and a 4 give you negative 1, and another negative 1 give you a negative 2, a squared, minus 9a plus 5. So let's look at some more examples. All right, so here we have some special rules that when you have a binomial squared, a plus b squared gives you a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So as you see, a squared is the same, and b squared is the same. The middle is what's different. If it's positive, we do twice a times b, and if it's negative, we do minus twice times ab. So here you can see that this is 2x plus 3 and 2x plus 3. So that means a is 2x, and b is 3. So I'm going to write the rule out. I like to use the lowercase letters. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So this is the rule that we want to apply. And so now when we apply that rule, 2x squared, so that's 4x squared, and in the middle is twice ab, so that's 2x times 3, that's 6x, which is ab. Now we make and double that, we get 12x, and then b is squared is 3 squared, so that's plus 9. Now, if you don't want to memorize this rule, that is perfectly fine. You can always just multiply it out the way we've done it on previous slides. So it's 4x squared plus 6x plus 6x plus 9. And as you see in the middle, you get the 12x. So you end up with the same exact trinomial. It's just a faster way, especially if you're a STEM major where you're going to be seeing a binomial squared a lot. It's just a thing that you want to see. All right, so let's do the other one. So this is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So that's the rule we need to apply. And we look at the first term, x. I'll identify my a as x and my b as 2y. And so a squared, so that's x squared. And the middle is the negative 2ab, so put negative, and then 2ab. So x times 2y is 2xy. Double that, you get 4xy. Plus b squared, 2y times 2y, which is 4y squared. So that's how you apply the rule of squaring a binomial. So let's keep applying the square of a binomial. And so here, x becomes x squared. X times 1/4 is 1/4 x. Doubling 1/4, you get 1/2 x. And then 1/4 times 1/4 is 1/16. Because 1 times 1, 4 times 4. Okay, so we're going to apply the binomial squared here. And the first term squared is 4x to the 4th, because that's 2 times 2, and x squared times x squared. Apply your minus. 2 times 3 is 6. Doubled gives you 12. X squared, y squared. Plus, remember this one's, the back sign's always positive, because a negative times a negative or a positive times a positive both always give you a positive. 3 squared is 9. Y squared is y to the 4th. And again, if you do not want to memorize that rule, you could always take that and rewrite it as 2x squared minus 3y squared, 2x squared minus 3y squared. Multiply and get 4x to the 4th. Multiply, get negative 6x squared y squared. Multiply, get negative 6x squared y squared. And get positive 9y to the 4th. Combine your middles and you get negative 12x squared y squared. And as you see, same exact terms that we had in this trinomial. All right, let's look at our final slide. And so here we are going to apply the rule of sum and difference. So as you see, all of these have the same values, and the first term is positive, second one's negative, or the first one's negative, the second one's positive. But when this happens, you square the first term, and you square the last term, and put a minus in the middle. And we get x squared minus 16. Because when we multiply that out, that's x plus 4, x minus 4, gives you, First term, x squared minus 4x plus 4x minus 16. And as you see, that middle cancels out every time when you have a sum and difference. Okay, so first term squared, 4c squared minus last term squared, 9. 2c minus 3, 2c plus 3. That's a sum and difference. Now this one looks a little bit different, but you have a plus b here, plus 1, and you have a plus b and a minus 1. So we know that a plus b squared is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And we know that from what we just did on previous slides. So first term squared, we're going to treat a plus b as one single term. We get a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And then after all that's done, we put minus, and then the last term squared. 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1. All right, that's all I have for you today. Happy studying.